the history of taxes, and the power of corporations. This part felt a bit like a history lesson with a twist.
It is fascinating history. The source notes that originally, in many places like the US and UK, there were no income taxes. When they were introduced, they were sold to the public as a way to punish the rich.
Right, the classic eat the rich narrative, make them pay their fair share.
Exactly. So the middle class and the poor voted for it. But the twist, as the rich dad explains, is that the government's appetite for money grew. It always does.
And eventually, the tax burden shifted down.
Right down to the middle class, the very people who voted for it in the first place.
Meanwhile, the rich found a way out. They used the corporation. Now, when I hear corporations, I think of a skyscraper with a logo on top.
That's what everyone thinks. But the source says that's not what a corporation is. It's just a legal document. It's a folder with some papers in it sitting in an attorney's office. But it offers a massive shield.
The source explains this mechanism really well, and I want to make sure we get this right because it feels like the secret sauce. It compares the cash flow of an employee versus a business owner.
It all comes down to the order of operations. If you are an employee, the sequence is earn, tax, spend.
So I earn $1, the government takes 30 cents immediately. I never even see it. Then I try to live on the 70 cents left.
Correct. But a corporation allows you to change the order. For a corporation, the sequence is earn, spend, tax.
Earn, spend, tax.
Yes. You earn the dollar, you spend everything you can on valid business expenses, computers, travel, dinners, cards, pre-tax. Then you are taxed only on what is left over. It is a completely different equation.
That sounds, well, some people might say that sounds unfair, like a loophole.
The source actually uses the phrase unfair advantage. But the argument is that the rich just understand the system. They have knowledge in 4 pillars: accounting, investing, understanding markets, and law.
So because they understand the rules, they can use the legal structure to protect their assets.
Exactly. Whereas if you don't understand the rules, if you lack that literacy, you get manipulated by the system. You pay the maximum because you don't know there are other options.
You just check the box that says standard deduction and hope for the best.
Precisely. It's not about evading the law. It's about using the law as it was written to encourage business and investment. The government wants you to start businesses, so they give tax breaks for it. The rich just take them up on the offer.
Moving on to lesson 5. The rich invent money. This sounds a bit like magic, maybe.
A little like alchemy. But reading through the source, I think it's more about mindset than magic. It is about overcoming self-doubt.
Okay.
The source points out that in the real world, it's not the smart that get ahead, but the bold.
We all know people like that. The straight-A student from high school who is stuck in middle management and the guy who barely graduated but is crushing it in business.
That is because the smart people are often busy analyzing the risks, waiting for everything to be perfect.
Analysis paralysis.
Totally. They are waiting for luck. The bold people, the ones with this financial mindset, they create opportunities. They invent money by seeing value where other people don't.
So instead of saying, I can't afford it, which just shuts down your brain.
They ask, how can I afford it?
Right.
It forces your brain to find a solution. Maybe you find a distressed property, lock it up under contract, and then sell the contract to someone else. You created value out of thin air.
That's inventing money.
That is inventing money.
I think the key there is that inventing money really means inventing opportunity. Most people just wait for opportunity to knock.
But the source argues you have to go out and build the door yourself. And it ties back to financial intelligence. If you understand the market and the law, you can spot deals that other people walk right past. You see the invisible value.
But to do that, to be that bold and see those invisible things, you need a broad set of skills. You can't just be good at one thing. This brings us to the final lesson, lesson 6. Work to learn, don't work for money.
This one is, it's controversial because it goes against the grain of modern specialization. We're always told to become a specialist.
Niche down, right. That's the advice.
Specialization is great for a profession, but Kiyosaki argues it can be a trap for financial freedom. He suggests that many people are one skill away from great wealth.
One skill away. That's an encouraging thought, but also kind of frustrating if you don't know what that skill is.
Well, the text is pretty specific about what those missing skills usually are. You might be a brilliant artist, but if you don't know how to sell, you starve.
Or an incredible programmer who can't manage a team.
You stay a junior developer. The advice here is to seek work based on what you will learn, not just what you will earn.
And the sources list the specific skills he recommends. Management of cash flow, systems, and people. And then the big ones that usually make people cringe. communication, sales, and marketing.
Oh, yeah. Sales and marketing are often looked down upon by academics or professionals. They think it's dirty or beneath them.
Hmm.
But Kiyosaki argues these are the vehicles to freedom.
If you can communicate your value and sell your ideas.
You can build the business that supports the asset column.
So, if I'm a young person starting out, don't just take the job with the highest paycheck. Take the job where you'll learn how to sell or how to lead.
Exactly. Even if it pays less now, the education is the real asset. You are building your own financial aptitude toolkit. You are making yourself a generalist in the business of money.
It reminds me of that story in the book about the young journalist. She had a master's in English, wanted to be a best-selling author, and Kiyosaki tells her to take a sales course.
And she gets offended. She thinks sales is low.
Mm-hmm.
But he points out that she wants to be a best-selling author, not a best-writing author. That distinction is everything.
You can have the best product in the world, but if you can't sell it, you don't have a business.
You just have a hobby.
Okay, we've unpacked the 6 lessons. We've gone from fear and greed to assets, corporations, and learning to sell. But I want to step back for a minute. The profile source we looked at had a really interesting take on his overall impact. It said that even if you find him extreme, or maybe you don't like his style because he can be a bit abrasive,
He can be, yeah.
his map is essential.
I think that is the most balanced way to view this.
Yay.
You don't have to agree with everything Robert Kiyosaki says. You don't have to become a real estate mogul. But the source argues that we're living in a world where the gap between the asset class and the working class is widening every single day.
It feels like the middle class is shrinking. You see it in the news, you feel it at the grocery store.
It is. And if you ignore this logic, if you ignore how capital works, you're just circling in place. You're playing by old rules that just don't apply anymore.
That reminds me of the point about inflation. The source explicitly warns that a stable salary is often an illusion.
It's a stable way to be eaten alive by inflation and taxes. Think about it. If you get a 2% raise, but inflation is 4%, you just took a pay cut.
Wow.
The safe pad hasn't actually been very safe for the last 20 years. That's the hard truth the book forces you to confront.
That's terrifying, but also clarifying. It brings us back to that idea of control. If you don't control your income source, if you don't have assets, you are at the mercy of the economy, your boss, the government.
And that is why the map matters. It shows you that there is another game being played. You don't have to play it, but you should at least know the rules so you aren't just the pawn in someone else's game.
So let's recap the journey we've been on today. We started with the trap. The idea that working hard for a paycheck is the only way.
We discussed how fear and greed keep people in that trap. We defined the difference between an asset, something that pays you, and a liability, something that costs you.
We talked about minding your own business by building that asset column, using the legal advantages of corporations to protect it, that earn, spend, tax formula.
And being bold enough to create opportunities rather than waiting for them. And finally, the importance of acquiring broad skills like sales and marketing, working to learn rather than just to earn.
It's a lot to take in, and it definitely requires a shift in how you see the world. It's not about quitting your job tomorrow and risking everything. It's about changing the goal.
The goal shifts from high income to high assets, from job security to financial freedom. And as the source says, critical thinking is key here. Don't just follow the old script because it's easy. Challenge it, question it.
Before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with the final thought that came from our source material. It's a question that I think everyone should sit with for a minute. Look at your life, your job, your spending, and ask yourself honestly, is the direction I am working in right now really going to set me free, or is it just going to keep me busy?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.